You're listening to 107.9 WRML LP Mays Landing. Coming up next, a look at last week's retro video gaming news on the RGN Files for the week ending Sunday, February 18, 2018. In the RGN Files this week, a brand new model of the Sega Dreamcast vs. Link cables are now available for fans to enjoy that may have originally missed out on this multiplayer alternative. The cables allow two Sega Dreamcast consoles to be linked together as part of a local area network, allowing for multiplayer gaming from within the gamer's physical location. The cords are the creation of Dreamcast Live, who have previously released other telecommunication devices for Sega's final console. The original Dreamcast vs. Link cables were at one time a very widely available communication option during the system's original lifespan. However, as the years went on, the cables became more rare, sometimes selling for as much as $200 on internet auction sites, putting them way out of range for the casual gamer. The new Dreamcast vs. Link cables sell for just under $40, which includes shipping within the United States. The cables are only compatible with games that were originally compatible with the original cords. The SNES clone, called the Analog Super NT, which was released earlier this month, has just had an unofficial firmware release updated that will utilize the SD slot to its full potential thanks to using a jailbreaking method. The Super NT is an aftermarket video game console that is compatible with the Super NES and Super Famicom, giving retro gamers the opportunity to play their cartridge collection on modern television sets without technical issues. The new unofficial firmware update will permit the owner to load as many as 700 16-bit Super Nintendo ROM images onto the device by means of using the built-in SD card reader. Taking advantage of the jailbreaking method will not take away the ability to play the two games that are built into the device, however may void any warranties on the system, as performing the procedure may cause functionality problems in the event of a future failure. This is a reminder that possession of ROM images without owning the original cartridges may be illegal activity in your country, and the information about this hack should only be used for educational purposes. Pico Interactive recently launched a successful Kickstarter campaign that will bring the longly thought lost Nintendo 64 port of 40 Winks onto a physical cartridge. 40 Winks was originally released back in 1998 for the PlayStation 1 and was supposed to be ported to the N64 by GT Interactive, however was cancelled due to financial difficulties. Thanks to the successful $20,000 Kickstarter campaign, the N64 Rescueware port will be available in two versions, a standard edition which will include the game along with a box and manual, as well as a special edition, which will also include a colored cartridge shell, limited edition poster, and a 90s era style POG. The standard edition of the game can be purchased with a pledge to Pico Interactive for $55, whereas the special edition will require an $85 pledge. This will be the first Nintendo 64 title to be released on physical media since Nintendo discontinued the N64 back in 2002. The game is slated to be available for shipping this coming September. Word has been leaked about Vicarious Visions and Activision's bringing a remastered edition of the Spyro the Dragon trilogy to the PlayStation 4. The game was very highly regarded by gamers and critics alike when it was first published, with reviewers praising the title's replay value and high-quality graphics for the time period. The upcoming remaster is slated to have new assets, cinematic appeal, new animation and lighting scenarios, alongside of a remastered soundtrack and restored cutscenes. Just like the recent Crash Bandicoot remaster, the collection will also feature updates to the saving feature using modern methods as opposed to a password feature. The official announcement is scheduled to be made sometime next month by Activision and is currently scheduled for release this coming September to coincide with the original title's 20th anniversary. The first game of the series was published for the original PlayStation back in 1998, with two sequels being released for the following 2 years. A Nintendo Famicom exclusive title called City Adventure Touch: Mystery of Triangle has recently been translated from its native Japanese to the English language. The game is very loosely based on the popular Japanese manga called Touch by Mitsuru Adachi. The story revolves around the character's dog, who has disappeared into an alternate dimension, and the children who must attempt to rescue their four-legged friend, one of them that attacks enemies by throwing baseballs. The goal of the game is to save puppies scattered throughout a town filled with aggressive creatures and objects. The ROM hack was done by PD-ROM members Supper and Filler. The modification does not correct any of the programming glitches that were on the original code in order to keep the game's authenticity. To use the translation, you will need an NES emulator, the original game's ROM image, as well as the patch, which has been successfully tested with the EverDrive series of flash drive cartridges. A new homebrew title is currently in development for the historical Fairchild Channel F video game console. The new game, which is entitled Killer Heads of Lettuce, is presently being written by an independent game programmer by the name of Chris Reed, known on the Atari Age forums as Atari 2600 Land. According to Reed, the game is a cross between Asteroids and Space Jockey and is currently in the very early stages of development. In the game, you control a spaceship trying to shoot down killer heads of lettuce. The Channel F was first released back in 1976 and goes down in history for being the very first video game console to utilize a microprocessor as well as interchangeable cartridges. Reed has presently made a work-in-progress ROM image available, which is compatible with any emulator that supports the Channel F. There is currently no word on an official time frame for when the upcoming game would be completed. And finally this week, the company that holds the present Atari name has recently made an announcement that they are looking into jumping into the world of cryptocurrency, similar to the popular Bitcoin. This modern monetary platform is to be known as the Atari Token, which shares its name with a similar in-house currency for in-game purchasing purposes by the company. There is currently no word as of yet if this new venture will also serve the same purposes when it launches. To brand the firm, Atari acquired a 15% stake in Infinity Networks, saying that they have plans to integrate cryptocurrencies through its branding partnership with Paraplay, which offers online and casino gambling using Atari's intellectual properties. Shortly after making the announcement, stock prices for Atari SA jumped considerably by approximately 15%. At this time, there has been no initial purchase date being made public, nor is there any information available on how much the initial shares would cost. That's it for this week's edition of the RGN Files. For those listening on VGM on FM, please stay tuned. There'll be more great video game music coming up shortly. For those listening on Retro Game Network, we thank you for listening and hope you'll tune in again next time. For complete details of any of this week's stories, please visit RetroGameNetwork.com. For the Retro Game Network, I'm Christopher Chrisman. This week's stories provided by the following: the Atari Age Forums, Bloomberg, CoinDesk, Dreamcast Live, Kickstarter, Kotato UK, Lad Bible, Nintendo Life, PD-ROMs, Pico Interactive, Retro Collect. You're listening to VGM on FM on 107.9 WRML. Now, back to the music.